So, a slight change of plans. After some experimentation with building a low poly spaceship and trying to texture it, I decided that it wasn't going to work the way I'd intended. So instead, I'm making pixel art for the enemy ships, using a 3D model as a guide. That doing it in 3D was not necessarily the best idea. I had some problems with physical nature of reality and three-dimensional space. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to use the 3D models as a guide, basically draw a pixel art spaceship over it. The spaceships, you're not going to see them from more than one angle really. Like, this is sort of the original concept I had. It was just something I put together in like 5 minutes. But this is kind of an evolution of it. It's got that same basic shape. So this is the ship in 3D. And I wanted to put a texture on it, and it was a nightmare. What I wanted was these lines to go straight here. But if they go straight here, then the pixels aren't square, they get slanted. And so they have to like come off the edge like that, and it's just not what I wanted. The good thing about this is if I have the 3D model, I can like redraw it from another angle if I want to. You know, so if we want like a schematic view of it, I can just go to the top view like that. I think a slightly unique look. It looks a little bit like a Cardassian Galor class warship, but different enough, I think. I think this approach will work better because it keeps the same pixel art aesthetic between the bridge and the view screen. So, starting with the outline, I got to shading and detailing the ship. This was another case where getting instant feedback from the chat was really helpful, and I'm quite pleased with the result. From the very basic placeholder I drew originally, the ship has evolved into something distinctive, and the first of many ships of this type. I think it looks quite imposing and bold with the perspective, like it's looming over you ready to strike and shoot lasers at you and stuff. The big crystal in the middle would turn out to be a key source of inspiration going forward. Throughout the game, the player will encounter a variety of ships from different spacefaring civilizations. Each of them needs to look very distinctive, so it should be immediately apparent which fleet the ship came from. If the ship is green with big red crystals on it, the player will know who they're dealing with. For the lighting, I had a couple of options. One is to simply draw the lighting baked into the ship. This would give me a lot of control over the final look of the ship, but a much less dynamic look than the one I eventually went with. So when I made Guildmaster, I used this program called Sprite Lamp to create some nice lighting effects for the environments. Sprite Lamp allows you to create normal maps for 2D sprites. A normal map is information about how light should interact with a 2D image, effectively giving pseudo 3D information about the flat sprite. SpriteLamp allows you to build a normal map by combining several images of how the object would look if it was colourless and lit from various angles. This can then be put into Unity, and it creates a pretty effective impression of 3D lighting on a sprite. To do this, I used the 3D model as a guide again, and lit the model from the left, right, top, bottom, and the front. Then I used that as a guide to draw the lighting images for the ship. These need to have very high contrast for the normal map to generate properly, all the way from pure white to totally black. Putting those together, and it gives you the normal map, ready to be imported into Unity. You can see there's a little bit of lighting on this, so I've done the normal maps. Also, I've made some little weapons. I'm not sure about the placement yet, but let's see how they look. If I end my turn, the enemy starts firing. Look at those lasers and the lighting that comes from them. I'm very pleased with that. And the little missile that flies out. How cool is that? I like it. If I take this light and move it about a bit, it will change the lighting on the ship. So one problem here, as was pointed out in the chat, is that the angle of the weapons makes it look like the lasers are not actually hitting the player's ship. I wasn't sure how to deal with this. Rotating the angle of the beam looked wrong, as did changing the angle of the weapons themselves. It looks kind of janky. But the angle's still wrong. Let's rotate the sprite. So that does look better, right? I mean, imagine them properly rotated, like not horribly rotated like that, because we don't want rotated pixels. That's not okay. I experimented with various angles, then briefly considered dispensing with the visible weapons entirely. Then I settled on the idea of drawing a different kind of turret, so that the angle of the shot would look more convincing. Sometimes I am too reluctant to discard something that isn't working, but sticking with something beyond the point where it has proven to be a waste of time is just more of a waste of time. So this is what led to the idea of making all the laser weapons for this faction be made from crystals. It adds to the distinctive look, and it allows for the shots to come out at any angle and still look convincing. Once the aesthetic for the ship was settled on, I decided to start work on improving the look of the cards, making them now resemble a kind of sci-fi pad or tablet. Each card has 3 screens. The top shows the name of the card, its command cost, and the graphic depicting the action. The middle screen shows the source of the card, such as the weapon, ship system, or crew member that has added the card into your deck. It also has a status light, red if the card source is destroyed, and yellow if it's in use or otherwise unplayable. And the lower screen gives a description of what the card does. The details and how the text will be displayed will be fleshed out more later. Some cards will have additional options appear when they're played, with a little extra panel sliding out and giving some options to choose from, such as choosing what part of the enemy ship to target. The player attack animations have also been redone to match the pixely aesthetic, and I've given the laser beams a bit of perspective to make it look more like the beams are moving through space between the ships. The animation system has once again been redesigned. I was going to link the animation to the weapon itself now, which made sense because the different weapons look different when they're firing. But the weapons also do different animations depending on what they're doing, such as charging or firing. So now a combination of the action and the weapon is used to determine which animation plays. I think this system will be flexible enough going forward, but I guess we'll see. That is a system. I've changed this animation system so many damn times now, but that's how iterative game design works. You make something, it breaks, and you fix it, and it breaks again, and you fix it, and then you keep doing that until it works. The bridge has been a little bare. Not a little bear, but a little bear. You know what I mean? So in the most recent stream, I started working on adding some details. I started by taking some inspiration from similar settings, such as Space Quest 5, and then this site was recommended to me. Oh, hello! This has a nice level effect here with the lighting underneath, or the edged thing. I love this era of Trek design. Very dentist's office, isn't it? I started out by giving some more depth to the bridge by adding in these cuboid shapes along the edge where the crew sit, something for their consoles to be attached to. Then I added a depression in the floor for a bit of verticality and perspective. Yeah, and then we get a different colour effect as well, and it gives some nice perspective lines to the bridge as well. Before we had only one, it was kind of orthographic almost. Now they are converging, making it into a ball pit on Friday afternoons, yeah. Some colour variations around the edges, panel details, little screens on the consoles. I think it turned out pretty well. Thanks for watching. Now that the aesthetic is starting to take shape, I'll be working on developing the game mechanics more for the near future, and getting to a point where the battles begin to take shape and involve some real challenge and strategy. If you'd like to see the development happening live, tune in on Thursdays at 6 PM GMT on Twitch. See you next time.